Many years ago, in a small village surrounded by golden fields and winds that dance among ancient trees, there lived a man named Samuel. He was known not only for his gentle ways, but also for the wisdom that seemed to shine through his eyes. Samuel worked as a craftsman, creating musical instruments, flutes, guitars, and small drums would leave his hands as true works of art. Although his trade provided only modest sustenance, it was his love for people that made him cherished by all around him. There was no traveler, merchant, or village child who did not know Samuel's warm smile, always ready to listen to stories, and offer advice that seemed to rise from the very wind and earth. One day, as he was shaping a harp for the tailor's daughter, Samuel received an unexpected visitor. It was Lucia, a young woman of 29 years, who had left the village years before to seek her life in a distant city. Her eyes now bore the weight of experience, the innocent glow of youth replaced by a wary, heavy gaze. She sought Samuel because she carried an invisible burden, an anguish that no doctor or therapist had been able to ease. He welcomed her into his small workshop, where the scent of fresh wood and beeswax filled the air, and there she poured out her heart. Lucia told him that despite achieving a certain financial stability working as an event planner, she felt utterly lost. The exhausting routine, the superficial relationships, and the endless pursuit of approval had drained her joy. Samuel listened patiently, his fingers still gliding gently over the wood of the harp he was tuning. When she finished, he remained silent for a few moments, as if hearing a melody only he could perceive. Then, with a calm voice, he said, "When we drift away from who we truly are to please the echoes of the world, our soul begins to grow silent, and without the music of the soul, life becomes mere noise." These words struck deeply within Lucia. Samuel proposed something simple yet powerful, that she spend some time in the village, disconnected from external expectations, and rediscover the small pleasures she had long forgotten, walking barefoot in the grass, watching sunsets without haste, playing an instrument simply for the joy of the sound it created. At first, Lucia resisted. The idea of wasting time sounded absurd to someone so accustomed to deadlines and deliverables. Yet there was something in Samuel's serenity, something in the honest stillness of that place forgotten by the modern world, that made her accept. In the days that followed, she relearned how to be enchanted by the simple things. She spent mornings walking along trails lined with wildflowers, afternoons helping at the local market, and evenings listening to old stories around fires under starry skies. And the more she surrendered to these moments, the more she noticed that the anxiety and emptiness she had carried began to dissolve, like mist fading in the sunlight. It was not magic, it was reconnection. A reconnection with what truly gives meaning to life, something we so often let slip through our fingers in the rush of our days. In a particularly symbolic moment, Samuel gifted her a small flute crafted especially for her. "May you never forget to listen to the music that comes from within," he said, smiling. By the end of a few weeks, Lucia found herself transformed. Not that all problems had disappeared, but now she knew she had an anchor, a place within herself she could always return to. And that made all the difference. Realizing that happiness does not lie in what we achieve externally, but in the ability to remain true to our essence, even amid the storms. Time passed, and in the midst of this reconnection with her own nature, Lucia found not only peace but also wisdom. Samuel, with his calm demeanor, often shared with her reflections that seemed as ancient as the mountains surrounding the village. One afternoon, as they watched a storm forming on the horizon, he said, "True freedom is being unshakable in the face of what does not depend on us. The clouds come and go, the winds change, but the mountain remains." These words echoed in Lucia's mind. She realized that she had spent years trying to control what was never her hands. The opinions of others, the results of her efforts, the course of events. Like a navigator trying to command the sea itself, she had struggled against immense forces, exhausting herself in vain. Inspired by Samuel, she began to adopt a new stance, to accept what life brought without panic, focusing only on her own character and actions. It felt strange at first, almost as if giving up the struggle was a sign of weakness. But soon she understood it was not weakness, it was wisdom. On one occasion, the village was hit by a heavy rainstorm that destroyed part of the crops. While many panicked, Samuel remained serene. With patience, He led the neighbors in rebuilding the small fields, encouraging each one to give their best without clinging to lamentation. Crying over the rain will not make the plants grow, but our hands can prepare the earth for the new cycle, he would say. And this attitude, filled with courage and stoicism, inspired everyone, including Lucia, who for the first time experienced the power of simply acting in the present, without being a prisoner of circumstances. During this period, she also found in silence a powerful response. Often, she preferred to sit by the river that cut through the village and simply watch the flow of the water. No rush, no goals, no judgment. Samuel had taught her that, like the river, life follows its course. We can swim, we can rest on the banks, but we cannot force it to change direction. Thus, she learned the art of living in accordance with nature, not trying to bend it, but flowing with it. This new worldview began to reflect in every little gesture of hers, from the way she spoke to how she handled setbacks. When the main road was blocked by a fallen tree, instead of getting angry as she would have done before, Lucia simply smiled and enjoyed the extra walk to the forest, seeing there an opportunity to appreciate the forgotten beauty of the details. This silent transformation was noticed by everyone in the village, and many began to seek her company for advice, just as she had sought Samuel's. Day by day, more convinced that happiness did not lie in shaping the world to her desires, but in shaping herself to embrace what life offered, Lucia understood the true essence of Stoicism, not as a cold philosophy, but as a warm invitation to inner freedom. By the way, speaking of freedom, if you made it this far and felt a spark ignite in your chest, why not join us? Subscribe to the channel now. That way, you'll be part of this small community of seekers of wisdom that transforms life from within. And if you really want to participate, leave a comment. What was the moment you learned the most about resilience in life? It could be something small or huge. What matters is sharing. I bet your story will inspire someone who needs exactly that today. A few months later, Lucia received an unexpected letter. It was an invitation to return to the big city and take a coordination role in an educational technology company, an opportunity that, years ago, would have made her heart race. But now, something inside her had changed. Sitting on the porch of her small house, gazing at the mountains bathed in the golden light of the setting sun, she pondered calmly. She understood that accepting the invitation was not wrong, nor would it be a betrayal of herself. But she also knew that the decision couldn't be based on fear, vanity, or a desire for external validation. For the first time, she didn't feel the urgency that once consumed her. She knew that, regardless of the path she chose, her worth as a person did not depend on the title on her business card or the opinion of others. This was a freedom so quiet and powerful that she almost laughed to herself. Lucia then decided to visit Samuel one last time before making her decision. She found him working on repairing a fence, his hands callous and steady, his expression as serene as ever. After listening to her doubts, Samuel simply said, "The tree doesn't need to rush to prove its strength. It just needs to grow where it's planted, and if the wind carries it away, it will bloom in another soil." These words echoed in Lucia's heart like a bell on a foggy morning. That night, while walking under the starry sky, she understood that Stoicism didn't tell her what to do, but how to be wherever she was. If she stayed, she would cultivate her peace among the mountains. If she left, she would carry that same peace with her, without anxiety or regret. The true change wasn't external. It was the calm that now resided within her. In the end, Lucia decided to accept the invitation and move, but in a completely different way than the anxious young woman she once was. She left the village as one who carries her home in her chest, knowing that it wasn't the address that defined who she was. She carried within her the seeds of the wisdom that had blossomed there, the courage to accept, the strength to resist without hardening, the serenity to be flexible like the river and firm like the mountain. Months later, already in the city, old friends commented on how she seemed different, lighter, stronger, and she simply smiled. Few would understand that this transformation didn't come from external victories, but from the quiet work of cultivating her own soul, day after day, accepting life as it is, and living according to the nature of things. And that is the beauty of Stoicism. It doesn't promise a life without difficulties, but it teaches how to navigate those difficulties with dignity and quiet joy, a forgotten art in times of rush and noise, but one that, like a spring of pure waters, still exists for those who have the courage to seek it. And since we've come this far, I'd like to make a very special invitation. If you felt that today's story touched some part of you that had been forgotten, how about subscribing to the channel right now? This is our little corner for reflection, where every story is a reminder that true strength is born from within and never from the outside. Also, share with us in the comments what lessons stayed with you after Lucia's journey. And if you ever lived something similar, a moment of decision, acceptance, or reconnected with your essence, tell us. Your story might be the thread that someone else needs to not give up today. Let's grow together, one step at a time. Oh, and remember, every time you comment, share, and engage, you help this message reach more people who need to hear these words. We are stronger when we walk together. Thank you for being part of this journey. See you in the next video with more stories that warm and strengthen the soul.